Hi, my name is Devi. I own a six-figure paper lead agency, and today we're going to quickly break down specifically on how to reverse engineer pricing in a market that you're kind of unfamiliar with or you're uncertain of. And then you go in a sales call confident using this framework every single time because you'll be able to kind of gauge what they're willing to pay and reverse engineer a pricing that makes sense for the both of you. So let's dive straight into it, right? First, you want to always ask what their CPA is. So, what does it cost them to acquire an additional customer or additional case, right? In the legal verticals, they refer to as case. So, always be sure to speak the language in a specific industry. Do some research beforehand. And you want to ask them essentially what their conversion rate is, right? So, if you send them 100 leads, out of those 100, how many people convert into customers? And that's how you kind of break down each step and reverse engineer the pricing, because let's say they're acquiring customers for $1,000, right, for each additional like legal case that they acquire. They're willing to pay $1,000, and let's say their conversion rate is 10%. So out of 10 leads, one converts into case, and then you can see, okay, then I have to charge $100 per lead for them to hit their target CPA, right, of $1,000. So that's how you kind of want to go around this framework. And what you can do is also dive way deeper into it. And if you ask these questions, I guarantee they're gonna respect the fuck out of you. You don't need to have any testimonials, none of that, and they're gonna respect you on the call. And specifically, what you can do is ask for their conversion rate based on each specific platform, whether that's Meta, Google, or YouTube, right? It just signals you that you're not like a beginner. So that's also going to help you on the sales call. And what you want to do essentially is kind of gauge, because Google has the highest quality, right? YouTube has also the middle quality, and Meta usually the lowest. But obviously, with a conditional funnel where you like kind of disqualify bad leads, you can get the quality up. So that's how you want to identify their CPA range essentially, and basically reverse engineer their CPA as well in that manner, right? If they don't want to basically give you a clear range, because usually they're willing to pay for additional customer from like 1,000 to 2,000 as an example, right? That might be different. So they always have like they always will start by telling you what they want to acquire a customer for in the ideal scenario, right? And for instance, like they're gonna try to always, some lawyers, and it depends on the vertical, but they're going to try to lowball you and give you like a very ridiculous cost of an additional customer, like 1,000 or like $700, right, which is not feasible at all. So if a lawyer or like a specific customer you're talking to, they're not confident in saying, or they just don't want to reveal what they're willing to pay an additional customer for you, because they typically have a range, right? It's not just a set number. It's like, what are they paying for in the ideal case versus what are they willing to pay for in in the most extreme case, right? So that's their bottom line. So if you generate a customer for them at $3,000, they're still willing to pay you, but at 4,000, they're just cutting you off, right? So you need to know their bottom line, and how you gauge that is kind of asking on the call, like, hey, what's your conversion rate? Like 10%. Okay, I can give you leads at $100, right? If your conversion rate is like at 10%, then you can acquire cases for $1,000, right? But let's say I'm gonna sell you leads for $150, right? Is that still doable, right? Would that still be within your range of CPA or target acquisition cost, so to say? And if you ask these questions, right, then you can kind of gauge specifically on what exactly they're willing to pay. So you're kind of having a dance back and forth, so to say. But the two levers essentially that really matter is just what they're willing to pay you for an additional customer, and where they convert leads, how they convert leads at, like what conversion rate. And the conversion rate is broken down specifically into how fast they reach the lead. Like the biggest lever they can pull is basically reach out to the lead immediately after 1 or 2 minutes, right? If they do that, that's most of the job is done. Specifically with Meta, that's also super important. But that's one thing, and another thing is you want to make sure that they have like you want to also be basically able to take a look at the voice recording, because sometimes these people are just depressed on a call and don't want to do their job, which is going to reflect poorly in your conversion rate, because how are you supposed to sell somebody if you sound depressed, right? So always make sure that you also ask like, what's your speed to lead, how's your enthusiasm, right, of the sales reps, are they killer closers or not that great? But obviously it depends on the industry, right? And later on the line, so after the test pilot, because in paper lead typically you have a test pilot, right? After it, after you determine that this relationship is profitable for both sides, you can kind of set a CPA guarantee. Now this is like pretty, it's not really risky if you've determined that they have a good intake team. And what that allows you to essentially do is keep the relationship, right? Because if you, for instance, get cost per acquired cases above their like target acquisition cost of $1,000, for instance, right? Then you're able to still like just send them free leads until they hit their target, because you always want to make sure that they are happy and acquiring customers at what they think is profitable for their firm. Obviously, you still need to be making money on that, but that's like an advanced move that you can pull once you've established that their intake and sales processes are good and are able to convert your leads, right? Because then you can keep the relationship and always make them happy, basically, uh, and you're gonna make money in the lifetime value of this client, because that's where the money is essentially made in pay per lead, right? And another strategy that you can have is a tiered pricing. So based on, for instance, what kind of criteria the customer or lead has, you can charge them different pricing. I'm gonna give you an example here, right? For instance, in uh, within like car accident industry, it is typically more valuable if the car accident happened sooner as opposed to later. What that essentially will do is make you the most money, because you're able to arbitrage the most based on the quality of lead you send them. On the technical side, it's a bit complicated to track this as well as route it. We'll have another video breaking down how that works, right? Or you can just like directly ask me. I have a Telegram and Instagram, and essentially what you can do is you can send them like the best type of leads, so people who've had accidents within a month, super valuable for these lawyers, and you can charge them 400. And for tier B, within 6 months you charge them 200. And for the lowest, within 2 years, where it's still like eligible but the quality is not the greatest, you can charge them $100 per lead, right? So that's how you essentially get this pricing structure locked in, to make sure that you make the most money and are the most profitable, right? All right, have a good day.